We begin with news from Jamaica. After the preliminary count of the votes in Thursday's general elections, the Jamaica Labour Party defeated the People's National Party PNP's 33 seats to 30 to be named the victors. In what was a closely contested race, both parties were locked in a 50-50 tie of the country's 63 constituencies until less than an hour before the counting of the ballots were completed at about 9:45 p.m. when each party took turns slipping ahead only slightly. As was predicted by political pundit Richard Ricky Crawford, all the 12 marginal seats were taken by the Jamaica Labour Party. Election Day 2016 managed to snag a few historical marks, though not all on the positive side of the spectrum. The day marked the lowest voter turnout in the country's political history, with only an average of 40% of the eligible voters of just over 1.8 million turning up at the polls to exercise their franchise. The 33-30 victory for the Jamaica Labour Party was also the closest victory ever by a political party. And the Prime Minister-elect Andrew Holness and his wife Juliet Holness, both winning their constituencies, creates the first time in Jamaican political history that a Prime Minister and his spouse will sit simultaneously in the nation's parliament. And the taste of victory was obvious on Mr. Holness's face as he addressed gleeful Labourites Thursday night. The Prime Minister-elect delivered his victory speech in a euphoric atmosphere. However, he underscored that a victory at the polls means that the real work had just begun. More from Tanika Thomas.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you now to welcome Prime Minister of Jamaica, Member of Parliament for West Central St. Andrew. Let's welcome Andrew Michael Holness.
Champion boy, you know the damn thing. Pan up for them, I sing and tender. Yeah, man, shall I make the goddamn boy? That's why everybody hit the champion boy.
Absolute joy for Labourites as the party celebrated a hard-fought victory at the February 25, 2016 general polls. The party headquarters at Belmont Road in Kingston was transformed into a sea of green as ecstatic supporters waited to hear the victory speech from their beloved leader, now Prime Minister-elect Andrew Holness.
I want to thank God for this victory. I want to thank the people of Jamaica for investing in me and in the Jamaica Labour Party the authority to lead this country from poverty to prosperity.
The JLP unseated the ruling People's National Party PNP by winning 33 seats to the PNP's 30. Mr. Holness says his party presented a message of hope, and that message took the party home to victory.
We have carried a message that is appealing to the people of Jamaica. And the people of Jamaica have accepted our message. But this is not the end of a journey. It is the beginning of changing Jamaica. From my travels around Jamaica, that you wanted to change the government. But I also picked up from going around the country that you want to change the way that government works. And so from this platform, I make the commitment to you that your new government will not be government as usual.
And the Prime Minister-elect also pledged to lead an accountable government. Mr. Holness also assured the people of Jamaica that his party will fulfill the promises the JLP made in its campaign for Gordon House.
We don't take it that we have won a prize. We have been given stewardship of the country, and we stand to be held to account for our stewardship. We know that the cost of victory is accountability. The cost of victory is the responsiveness of the government that we will form. The cost of victory is to keep the commitments that we have made.
Tanika Thomas reporting for CEEN Caribbean News.
And pundits believe the Siaga factor played a crucial role in cementing a win for the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP. Former Prime Minister and JLP leader Edward Siaga was a part of the jubilation at the party's Belmont Road headquarters on Thursday night. Mr. Siaga congratulated his prodigy, Andrew Holness, for what he called a well-deserved victory.
He covered the island 3 times, went around Jamaica 3 times, never stopped. Neither day nor night. If you wanted to meet with him, you had to set up a date in advance, because he was always somewhere doing something in the cause of the campaign. So I congratulate him, and I congratulate the team, and I give my gratefulness to all of you for the support that you have given to the party on this occasion.
Mr. Siaga was instrumental in the JLP's successful campaign to Gordon House as he assisted the wife of Prime Minister-elect Juliet Holness, who won the East Rural St. Andrew seat against the PNP's Imani Duncan Price, as well as the JLP's Alando Tarralong, who unseated the PNP's Arnaldo Brown in St. Catherine East Central. Mr. Siaga quipped that it didn't matter whether or not PNP leader Portia Simpson-Miller accepted defeat. He described the Labour Party's victory as the result of a thrilling campaign.
I don't know whether the leader of the party has conceded victory, but she never did that the last time either. So it don't matter, concede or no concede. We know that there has been a magnificent victory. And this has been one of the most thrilling campaigns ever run in the history of Jamaica. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for protecting democracy, because I count that as very valuable. I want to count you all for making sure that no party should get more than a certain number of years to run and leave the rest of the years for some others to take over. And I'm glad that democracy is alive and well under the Jamaica Labour Party.
Meanwhile, campaign spokesperson for the JLP, Kamina Johnson-Smith, says while the party is grateful for the victory, it is also humbled by it.
The atmosphere is very, very celebratory, but also tempered by humility, because we're also very aware of how much work there is ahead of us. The party, the members of the party and the leadership of the party, we're also grateful for all the work that has been put in, and we are so grateful for the trust that has been placed in us by the people of Jamaica. We're honored, and we will not take their vote for granted.
Mrs. Johnson-Smith says a major contributor to the JLP's victory was the positive attitude of its messaging.
Our messaging was about our plans for the future. It was about listening to the Jamaican people, to Jamaica, and to ensuring that we were saying things that would make us move forward as a people, rather than focusing on negativity and things which can't take us forward. I think the contrast between the positivity of our message as against the negativity of the PNP's message was too vast for people to ignore, and that is a good thing, I think, for democracy.
And it is widely believed that the opposition's proposals to remove income tax from the salaries of persons who earn $1.5 million and below per annum played a key role in the party's victory. So are we likely to see that happening soon?
My understanding is that our intention is to have it done in the first budgetary year. So unless there were things that were hidden from us in respect of the budget, the intention has been and will be to ensure that it is put in place in the first year.
And the People's National Party, though having requested a recount, has conceded defeat. General Secretary of the party, Paul Burke, says the PNP will now turn its attention to analysing the factors that led to its loss.
I don't want to call it a post-mortem. We're not dead. We have had a setback. We got 49.6% of the national vote. We lost 7 constituencies by under 400 votes, right? So we have no post-mortem to do, but certainly we must evaluate. There must be introspection and there must be rejuvenation.
When asked about what he thought led to the party's defeat at the polls, Mr. Burke says the JLP's promise of a tax break for persons who earn below $1.5 million per year had a heavy hand to play.
The promise of that tax cut package for PAYE earners came up over and over again from all people in the field, that the undecided voter in particular had bought into it, and they were able to sway more undecided voters than us. Our vote went down 6% from what we got in 2011. We still think that's a fantastic achievement, bearing in mind the party had to implement a very difficult, arduous economic program which called upon Jamaican people to make some serious sacrifices. And it was a very challenging economic time for most Jamaicans. Notwithstanding that, we did what we did. We got 30 constituencies to the JLP's 33.
And Mr. Burke is convinced that the fact that the party refused to participate in the national debates and the continued criticism of Andrew Holness's house had no bearings on the PNP's loss.
I don't think it hurt our support. I don't think it gained us any support from the undecided voter, which was who we had to woo. So the answer certainly is yes in that context. I don't think we lost one PNP supporter. Well, that is being literal. But I don't think there would have been any significant loss of any PNP support over those two issues from persons who are already committed to vote for PNP. For the undecided voter, which always makes the difference in these elections, I think it would have had some impact.
Meanwhile, a dejected Portia Simpson-Miller put on a brave face as she conceded to Mr. Holness. The PNP leader and outgoing Prime Minister expressed her disappointment at the party's loss. She, however, urged her team to stand united despite the poor showing at the polls. In the same breath, Mrs. Simpson-Miller made it clear that the PNP would seek a recount of the results.
So, comrades, it's a time for even stronger unity. We have been united before. Let us now unite for a cause and for a purpose. And let me say to you, do not be angry. What happened, happened. But you must always know that we, the leaders, are here. The other side won, that I'm going to be very big. I commend them on their victory. But I'm going to give an instruction now. We must send strong persons at every constituency recount when they go through the ballots. And who we send must be persons who will pay attention to everything, every detail. Leave nothing to chance.
And Mrs. Simpson-Miller tried to cheer up gloomy comrades who gathered at the party's Old Hope Road headquarters on Thursday night. She also thanked members of the party for their efforts in the 2016 election campaign.
And I'm going to beg some of you who look so sad, if I can smile, give me a bright smile. I know you're hurting. And we feel it too. But remember, there's a master that is more powerful and larger than the entire population of the world.
Now, the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ, has begun the final count of the ballots cast in Thursday's general elections. On Friday, Director of Elections, Orette Fisher, said that they are nowhere close to being finished counting. When asked if there were any major issues that his team encountered, this was Mr. Fisher's response. We apologize for the absence of that clip. Meanwhile, the CARICOM Election Observation Mission to Jamaica has provided positive feedback. Mission Chief Josephine Tamay gave a roundup of her team's observations from the 33 constituencies visited on Thursday. Their preliminary findings suggest that the democratic process was duly observed. And political analysts are weighing in on the general elections won by the opposition Jamaica Labour Party in a 33-30 victory on Thursday. Kevin O'Brien Chang believes there are 4 things that worked in favor of the Jamaica Labour Party. Mr. O'Brien Chang noted that there are 2 key positives from this JLP victory, being the women who have won their seats and the presence of Mr. and Mrs. Holness in Parliament. Meanwhile, Caribbean political analyst and pollster Peter Wickham notes that Thursday night's election results mirror a new global trend of the electorate moving away from voting along party lines. And agreeing with O'Brien Chang on the positive role social media played in the JLP's victory, Mr. Wickham believes there is a place for social media in future elections.
That is a trend that we're seeing globally and also in other Caribbean islands. I mean, if you look at the last UK election, you find that there's a narrowness in relation to the 2 levels of support. The other thing that we've noticed in terms of looking at elections globally is that the whole idea of people being entrenched in a philosophy is something that seems to have changed significantly. So you're finding that persons, let's say even in the United Kingdom, who were supporters of Labour or Conservatives are now shifting. My assumption is that within Jamaica the same thing is happening. So the typical JLP and the typical PNP supporter is no longer severely entrenched in that regard. We're seeing a reduction in the level of partisanship and a level of mobility. My sense is that this is really a phenomenon among young people. One could say young people who are now a lot better educated than they were in the past and perhaps are more difficult to convince that they should continue to be loyal to a particular party along lanes. Now, this I think is great for development. It means that political parties can no longer assume the garrison will remain a garrison, and essentially, everything is on the table. And I think that it's a good thing for the Jamaican electorate and a good thing for electors across the world, that politicians understand that, there's nothing that can be taken for granted.